Orgasmic enlightenment, where the sexual and spiritual come together. I'm Kim Anami, and I'm a holistic sex and relationship coach and a vaginal weightlifter. In this show, we explore all things intimate. I believe that our sexual energy is life force, creative energy, and we can use it to shape our worlds, strengthen our relationships, and self-actualize. I blend the most avant-garde information from neuroscience, ancient sexual practices like Tantra and Taoism, to renegade wellness modalities to show you how to create gourmet sex in your lives. Come one, come all. My pussy is my CEO. It's also my doctor, spiritual guru, and creative director. A one-stop shop. Your pussy ought to be making all the decisions in your life. From matters of the heart to business investments, pussy knows best. The big barometric question is, does it turn you on? In addition to your brain, you have your heart brain and your gut brain. You also have your pussy brain. I would say it's the most powerful, intelligent, and truth accurate of them all, even with all of the rest of them combined. Why? Because it connects you directly to a source of wisdom that bridges dimensions, giving you access to other realms, higher realms of consciousness. But only when you are well fucked. If you are sexually repressed, or if you think your clitoris is the be-all, end-all, then your antennae are going to be flawed. Your decision-making apparatus will be all askew. You will be one of those people complaining about how the narcissist was so clever and they tricked you for years, how you always choose the wrong men, how you are stuck in poverty. Why? Because you are stuck in sexual poverty, both by being underfucked in general and because you exist in the superficial domain of the clitoris. Most women have never even heard of cervical orgasms, and that is why most women are severely underfucked. The thing is, these orgasms are about much more than just technique. If that was the only thing that mattered, everyone, at least anyone who even knows they exist, would be able to have them. But they don't. To access this spiritual and intuitive wisdom, you need to go deep and activate the power of your cervix. How do you think I've stayed ahead of the curve? Well, let's not be modest here. I have created the entire curve of holistic sex and relationship coaching. How do I constantly innovate? How am I fearless in being first? Because I'm connected to my cervix. It is the ultimate GPS. When your self-actualized pussy is calling the shots, you make better decisions because you are guided by your highest self. You unleash your full self-healing powers. In this episode, you'll hear how well-fucked All Star Robin regrew her thyroid and went off medication that doctors told her she would die without. Her whole system reconfigured itself and activated its own innate intelligence to adapt and heal. Everyone can learn how to do this. This is the crux of what I teach in all of my salons. Perfect health and quantum healing are possible for all. If you learn how to activate and master your sexual energy, and if you get well fucked. You also unlock your creative genius. You learn how to tap into your unique gifts and your unique voice and channel them out into the world, making art and making money because you are making orgasms. But again, only the deep, life-changing vaginal orgasms, and in particular, cervical orgasms, count. A daily state of ecstasy becomes your default. And since like attracts like, you magnetize more bliss constantly in the form of people and opportunities who keep the bliss flow going. You do this by mastering your sexual energy and your cervical orgasms. Today's well-fucked all-star is Robin. As I mentioned, she has mastered profound levels of self-healing and her own unique creative expression. And she gives credit where credit is due, to her cervix. Well-fucked all-stars! All right, amazing to have you back, Robin. How are you? A few years, actually. Yeah, we interviewed. Yes. So we interviewed you back in 2021,
Happy to
perhaps?
be here, as
Yeah.
always.
And you were talking
Been in
about
Anami land for a
your
few months
relationship with
now.
your yoni and the high level
Yes,
intercommunication that you
yes.
have.
But we've
So
been on a
let's
good
hear
stream.
what else has been happening for you and some of the key current shifts and
I think
transformations
so,
that you've
yeah.
seen.
Well, all those years ago, I mean, if you'd listened to the first podcast with me, I definitely came into this with all this slew of, issues, feminine issues, never had a cervical orgasm, very disconnected, numb, thinking I was having a great sex life. But I had no idea. I didn't even know that you could touch a cervix. I had nobody said cervical orgasm to me. So that when I first started working with you, it was definitely like a physical gain. I was looking for like a physical um, shift. I had been ill. I had Hashimoto's for 20 years. And during, I think actually after, no, I guess it was right before I'd had Lyme's and then I'd lost my thyroid. It was completely gone. So I came in pretty sick. And it was definitely like this whole life changing. I needed to change everything. I needed to discover. I needed to figure out what was going with my body. And so that's where I started. And it took both of the women's salons and over a year to finally get a cervical orgasm. And it takes patience and perseverance and surrender. Honestly, it's like probably has become one of my most powerful mantras and words through all of this work is surrender.
And what does that mean to you? So to surrender, how was that? I mean,
Well,
we.
originally it was just surrendering to my husband physically. It was, and I'm not really afraid of anything sexual, but it was like, whether it was him finally like reaching and touching my cervix and allowing that to happen and allowing all of the physical sensations, the tears to flow, and not resisting, not trying to be something or somebody in the bed. So that's where it started, and then it just kind of stretched everywhere. Um, and it really has changed my life, like as far as having self confidence and trust coming from my vagina and coming from that connection and reawakening my own feminine power. um it it just allowed me to start surrendering, whether it was my art, which is my work, with even just the day, where the day might lead you, and obviously where we live in a culture where there's X, Y, and Z to be done, but being able to be more connected to the unseen realms, surrendering to like voices and hearing and guides and um, you know, nudges, if you will, that come from places that I think I was numb to before because I wasn't connected. And it just kind of has all gone back to, and opening the cervix really is a key. And you've said it before, like you can't, your clit can lie, but your cervix can't lie. And so once you open that and you surrender to it, it changes your life like really deeply. And I'm super grateful for that shift.
So when we say your pussy is your CEO, your chief ecstasy officer, what does that mean to you?
It means that you always answer back to that. She can't, I mean, she will not lie. And everything that is created from that place. And it was interesting when I first started doing work with you, it was like there was this of me having a conversation with my pussy. Like it was almost like this two separate identities. And
When you
over
say
the
that, just
continue,
because you're gesturing, you mean that this is
sorry,
your brain
like
part
my
of you, your
brain,
mind.
yeah, like yeah, or like my ego, my identity of like, this is Robin, and then I have my pussy, and Robin is talking to my pussy, almost like my pussy is like this whole other identity in a way. But I have to say that in the last like year or so, it's my body is finally merging more with my identity. Like I don't feel any separation anymore, and it makes me realize how much, like they say that most of our health problems start in our gut, right? And I don't even know that it's necessarily gut, but I would say that it's those first three chakras that most humans are like separated from. And it's our creative source, it's our internal energy and our power and our sexuality. And it all is coming from down there. And a lot of times when people start to find their faith or their religion or their their job in life or whatever, it's such a higher chakra thing. It's up in your mind and 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 it has no like foundation. And so when I first started speaking, if you will, to my cervix and my pussy, it was more of it was like my higher chakras were speaking to my lower chakras. But with all of this work, there's like a full conversation now. And I realized that my mind is not the one in control. And my heart is not the one in control. It is my pussy. Like that is where we started. We came from a vagina on this planet. We like dropped down on this planet. And it's where the spark of creativity of like what it means to be an earthling here is. And so we should be having that conversation first. And then she can direct and say, yo, heart, like, how do you feel about this emotionally? Or mind, maybe you need to clear out some cobwebs in there or something,
And you know what's interesting is that even within that chakra system, there's this idea that the lower chakras are more base, earthly, animal instincts,
Right.
and then the upper chakras are more superior, more advanced. And there is this idea of energy going, from the base up to the crown. But I think what's woven into that and what becomes deceptive for people is what this association with sex as a coarse pursuit, an animal urge, instinct, the lower parts of us, all of this verbiage that is deliberately painted over the truth of our sexual organs as these portals into other dimensions, like the way we talk about the third eye or the crown chakra as portals into other dimensions, that especially for women, right, as the
Yeah.
literal channels for this new energy and new life coming through into this plane of existence, that this is a huge portal. And if we didn't have this concept and association that's constantly being bombarded into us, pelted into us, of sex being dirty and shameful and gross and taboo, and well, gross but also lustfully pleasurable,
Right.
that people would see this as what it truly is, what I've often referred to it as the fountain of youth, as this portal of energy into creative life force, right, as the ultimate channel. And so and then we know that in cervical orgasms, there's a direct connection between the cervix and the crown chakra, right? There's an energy portal channel, chakra system goes right up there. The vagus nerve starts there and goes all the way up to the top of our being. And women often have phrasing like when they've had these deeper cervical orgasms, like they felt at one with the universe, they saw God, they were completely reborn. All of this spiritual terminology to talk about this supposedly lower level experience. And so,
Right.
I feel like that is my mission in my work, is to unveil the truth of what our sexual energy really is, and not the lies that diminish it as something throwaway, coarse, which it can be that, but its real home, its real nature is sacred and high level and
That's,
transformative.
yeah, truly. And it's really unfortunate because I do feel like it's strangely intentional to
Very
block that from us. I mean, it
unquestionably
is,
intentional.
yeah. It's interesting because I really resisted any sort of faith-based spirituality, and I felt like it was very artificial because it was just nobody was recognizing that the sexual nature of our being. And honestly, that is our gift of being alive on earth. Without the body and the sensations and the senses of beauty and like union with another human being and channeling that, like what the hell is the point? No, it's just it's so, I mean, especially now, like once you can find those, obviously you found that is at a young age, but to have gone so long without thinking that I was having a great sex life, and then seeing how much it shifts your life once you truly do find that find that deep, deep cervical truth, basically finding the truth in there. It's yeah, it is heaven on earth.
So, how was that different when you went from what you thought was good sex and then having cervical orgasms? How would you describe the difference and what that did for you?
Oh my gosh, the difference, I don't even remember. It was like 6 years ago. I mean, I talk about it of just sometimes I'm like, man, what was I thinking or what was I doing? It was like it was a release. It was like a little release. Like you're like, and I mean, my clit was very active. I could get myself to come like 7 times in a row, but they were all like, ah, ah, no. It's just, it's crazy. And I've actually been like really, I've been really trying to like unify all three orgasms at once, like have a clit, G, and cervical at the same time. Like, and I've achieved it a few times where it's just like it's almost like your body is like no longer a body. Like, I don't know how to describe it. There's no difference between my vagina and his cock and the shit that I am visualizing. It's, I mean, I after like a real session, I'm like, that changes the world somehow. Like if there's a butterfly effect anywhere, that's doing it. Like no joke, feels like the earth kind of shifts axis. Like you're just like your every sensation is alive. And it does take a lot of practice, the breathing. um my husband's actually better at it than me, and over the last so many years that we've been working on it and stuff, he always can bring me back to the breathing, because I just like I can just float away. I don't even know if I need to breathe anymore. Sometimes I'm just like, am I human? I have no idea. I mean, the visualizations that I have, it's like I ate like a whole bunch of acid or something. And yeah, you see God, or you are God, kind of. Like
You
I
see
mean, I
that you
wouldn't want
are
to
God.
yeah, you are God. Like it is all of a sudden you are with God and you are God, and it is that union. There is nothing like it. And it becomes everything. Like whatever happens to my cells when I have a really, really good orgasm, I can channel that by just sort of looking at my husband or thinking about him, or it's just, honestly, even looking at nature. Like it's a muscle that I really enjoy strengthening for sure.
Love it. So tell me more about your creative process because you are an artist and you made a comment how every masterpiece you create is a direct flow from this Yoni portal. So tell me more about that.
So I'm an artist as my vocation. Like I actually sell clothing for mostly women. So that's been really amazing. I've been doing it for 17 years. And if you were to like look at a portfolio of what I did in the beginning compared to who I am now and what I'm doing, I mean, it's just, it's humorous, as far as you can see me throughout the whole story, but in the last, um, the last pretty much since I've been working with you and my cervix has started speaking so loudly, I really enjoy dressing women in art that means something deeply. Um, one of my designs, I'm working on all new designs right now, but one of my designs last year was a seashell that opened and it was like with a pearl on the inside and it had all of these geometric kind of lines, all white and gold behind it. And it was about, and so women were like, oh, this is so beautiful. And then some people would ask what it meant farther. And I was like, well, the lines and the geometrics are the masculine. And if the masculine is aligned and centered, it allows the feminine shell to open. And if the shell is open and surrendered, it allows the man to align. And I had some great conversations with people about that. Men would be like, oh my God, babe, you really should wear this. And it really, yeah, all the art, tells a story. And I just, when I first started doing it, I would lay down in my studio and I'd pull out my yoni mirror and I'd speak to her and be like, what are we going to create now? And um, I don't even need a mirror at this point. I mean, sometimes I do, but just for fun. But yeah, I go down and I create my sacred space and call in my guides and my guardians and we create. I'm like having like a therapy moment with women who come into my booth and they cry and they share their deep secrets. And when they start telling me about their female issues, I'm like, well, have you ever heard of Kim Anami? Or have you ever heard about deep throat? I mean, for anybody
You
that
tell
knew
them that they
me,
might need to deep throat.
yeah, or anal. That one's a little more sensitive for people. People are like, holy shit, but they love it. And then all of a sudden they're like really deeply talking about it. I wouldn't throw anal at just anybody. that's a special that's a special kind of woman, but like the deep throat. And a lot of people that know me and that collect my stuff and have watched me grow and then watched me, when I was really sick 6 years ago, and then I grew back my thyroid, and everybody wants to know how I did it.
What do you tell
How'd you do
them?
it?
Or
How'd you
what,
do
what
it?
would you say you did?
I mean, if I was talking to them face to face, I would talk about deep throat and the return of my voice. And, and I did everything to get healthy, change my diet, change my, way of thinking, did acupuncture every week. Like, I mean, I did so many things. But the deep thing to me was the cervix and surrender and deep throat. And then my journey, and it kind of happened. No, every doctor told me that if I got off thyroid medication, I would die. Like I was on a full dose. I actually was on full hash, and I tried all the different kinds. I was on them, it was for 20 years, 25 years. Um, and I was on two different kinds. I was on one for, it's called Cytomel, and it's to help you like transfer or active, whatever. Those are all the details of the thyroid. But a lot of women have that issue. Like it's an epidemic is thyroidism. And so everybody told me that I couldn't do anything. I couldn't fix it. And then I finally went to a doctor who was like, I don't believe that. and he scheduled, and my medication, it was seeming like I was like hyper, and I was like, well, how am I on a full dose if this is, if or how am I becoming hyper if I need a full dose of medication? And he's like, I don't know, maybe you're growing it back. And I was like, do you believe in that? And so I went to my endocrinologist and asked if she could do another ultrasound. And she was like, don't waste our time. We've already seen you have no thyroid. She's like, you cannot grow back a thyroid. Um, so rude. And she was like, you're just wasting our time. And so I went back to the doctor that said it's possible. And he was like, well, screw that. He's like, I'm going to get you one in another hospital. And it was, yeah. So I went in to get the ultrasound. I'd actually bizarrely re-listened to a psychic call that I'd had like a year before. And on the way there, I had listened to the call. And the woman was talking to, I mean, if you believe in this kind of thing, she was talking to my dad. And she said, your dad will come, he'll come to speak to you through butterflies. And and then I pushed it on pause. This was a year after I'd had the call with her. I put it on pause, went into the hospital. I'm laying there. She's doing the ultrasound on my neck. And she said, and I'm laughing, trying to make a joke out of it. I was like, do you hear a heartbeat? And she's like, you're having twins. And I was like, no, but seriously, do you see anything? She's like, well, I see your thyroid. And I was like, what do you mean you see my thyroid? And she's like, well, I'm scheduled to look at your thyroid. And I was like, I know, but, and I pop up. She's like, you want to see? She's like, see the butterfly right there? And I like burst into tears. And I was like, she's like, it's not the healthiest one I've ever seen. She's like, but it's right there. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And I'd seen the last one. There was like a little tiny piece of scar tissue left where my thyroid was. I went outside. As soon as I walked outside, it started raining. And I was just like, oh my fucking God. This is like, it was just one of the most beautiful give back moments to myself. And I was like, anything is possible. Consequently, the same doctor that got me was the one that suggested to me bioidentical HRT. And because he was like, I was starting to have,
The same doctor, like the one who said you didn't,
not the
which,
endocrinologist, the cool doctor that got me a second, but he was
okay,
still just a normal doctor.
right.
And he had the opportunity to meet two women that had grown their thyroids back in his practice. So that's why he believed in me for that.
And was yours cut
But
out or what happened to it?
no, I had Hashimoto's. Nobody told me that you could get end stage Hashimoto's. I was so sick for a year. This was the year before COVID. And it was right after my dad had died. And I had been through really complicated grief. I had taken care of him for 2 years. And then 6 months later, I swear it was my dad that came in a tick and bit me in the ass and like saved my life, because I think that I needed a U-turn. Like I needed a 180. I think that had I stayed in the same direction, I would have, I'd be on a HRT right now for sure, and still on all thyroid medication. And it took me, you know, I found all sorts of teachers. You were one of them. I was on the hunt of like, how do I get healthy? Because I'd lost my thyroid. I was losing weight. I wasn't absorbing any vitamins and minerals. Like I was a wreck. And my endocrinologist was like, she was the first person in 20 years that said, listen, your diet, like you need to go gluten free right now. Like I think you might be like super, practically celiac, blah, blah, blah. So I did immediately, because 20 years ago, people were like, yeah, don't eat broccoli and tofu. Like that was their solution. I was like a vegan. I was so sick. Like I eat so much protein now. Like my husband, besides shoving his cock down my throat, he also shoves a lot of meat down my throat.
Meat in every form. We love it.
Meat in every form. I'm a meat eater. Um, but yeah, so I had lost my thyroid due to Lyme's. I mean, that was the end stage, was the Lyme's. But I was on a path of just not being healthy.
And then you mentioned your voice. So, how do you see that correlation? Because the idea of, any throat issue, we could say the symbolism there is someone not speaking up, not speaking their truth, swallowing their truth. And that usually, when I've heard any stories where people reclaim some kind of throat issue, that's part of the journey.
Yeah. And I never thought that it would lead me there. I was very insecure about my voice as a young girl. Um,
You just didn't like the sound of it? What do you mean?
um, my mom had made fun of me as a kid for being so off tune
Singing.
and singing. And my sister has an incredible singing voice. So there was like, and my mother is such a sweetheart and loves me dearly. And I'm sure she did not mean to, but as a child, I saw my sister with this beautiful singing voice. And I was, singing happy birthday off key. And so that started it. And I remember being shy about my voice and dad issues, and then my first boyfriend was abusive, like a whole chain of events, people pleasing as a young kid to feel safe, not being in a safe environment, um and trying to just make everybody happy around me. What's cool is after I miraculously grew back my thyroid, um and continued on the whole journey of surrender and surrender and surrender, I've been pulling more teachers into my life that I don't think I would have before. um Probably because of like my inability to discern whether somebody was legit or not, made me kind of just be wary of anybody that spoke anything spiritual. I was like, I don't trust, I'm very spiritual, but I don't trust spiritual teachers. And I fell in the lap of this woman last year who, she's a sound healer. I mean, she does not like that word. She doesn't like the word shaman or anything like that. But truly, I call her my like spiritual doula. And she's like, Robin, women that have thyroid problems usually end up working with sound and frequency because it's like those conversations we don't want to have. If you don't want to talk about something, it's probably the source of the biggest conversation you need to have, and just even being able to have these conversations with you, Kim, like 20 years ago, no way. No way. I'd be interested in it, but so yeah, it opens everything. And that's why I love having the platform that I have, even though it's very small. I'm not like a big, business owner. I have a very small, I hand paint every single piece of fabric that goes on a woman's body. So I don't have I have my own personal sweatshop. But every conversation that I get to have with women, that's my voice and it's a frequency. And if I fix my cervix, and if I'm connected with my cervix, that frequency is coming through and it's touching somebody else's cervix immediately, just like you're doing. And your platform is growing because women need this. We need it so desperately. And we need it so that we can save men and masculinity because it's on the brink.
So let's come back to the HRT. Okay, so after, well, just to wrap up, I guess the thyroid piece. So are you now, as far as you understand, generating your own hormones? Like you've reconfigured things?
Well, let's go to the HRT because that's
Okay.
part of that
Yeah,
story.
sure.
So I went back to that doctor and I had started, I was noticing mood stuff and just changes, that I was like, oh wow, I'm going through perimenopause. Like
How old are you
this is
now?
starting to happen. I'm 49 now, but this was 3 years ago, 40, yeah, about 3 years ago. um and he was like, well, have you thought about bioidentical HRT. He made a very big difference of like, no, this is bioidentical. It's not what you hear about in the movies. They just like, dose you with a whole bunch of estrogen and da da da. He's like, this is totally safe. And he's like, you will feel like $1 million. And I was like, yeah, duh. I was like, I don't know about one more medication. And he's like, but it's not really a medication. It's just like your thyroid medication. It's bioidentical. And he's like, it's just giving you what you're missing that, like, and I'm like, yeah. And at that point, I feel like I ran into somebody else that had changed her whole life. Like she was miserable and she had gotten an HRT and she was like, oh my God, like everything is better now, blah, blah, blah. And so he's like, I guarantee you're going to love it. Just try it. And like such a like drug dealer,
Yeah.
man. And so
Yeah.
such a drug dealer. And so I'm convinced now, I'm like, gosh, maybe I don't feel perfect. Like maybe I will feel better. And like, so I get this little, they call me up and it was this whole weird thing. And like, they're asking me all these questions. And it was like the whole spectrum, right? So it was testosterone and progesterone and estrogen and maybe even like one other one that I don't even know the name of. And it was this cream that you like dial it and you rub it on a different place. But then they were like, make sure you rub it on a different place every night. And I was like, well, that's weird. Like, why can't, like, what's bad about it to put it in the same? Obviously, I'm still slightly being triggered, but I'm like trying to just go with it. I do it for 2 weeks and lose my ever loving shit. I was like, I, I was like putting it on. First of all, I felt the testosterone immediately. And honestly, I had taken the pill when I was like 18 for amenorrhea or 17 or whatever, because I wasn't getting my period. But nobody thought to talk to me about trauma or my eating habits or, it was like, oh, get on the pill. And
Yeah.
I literally went insane and probably started the whole cascade with my thyroid. I mean, I really believe
Right.
that it's just, and it's again, those are all like band-aid fixes. It's these portals that
Yeah.
we miss the mark.
Yeah.
Like if I had had education as a young woman about the beauty of my period and the beauty of that transition and my body changing and weight gain that's beautiful and my ass developing rather than being like, what the hell is that thing behind me? And I was scared and so I stopped having a period. I had no conversation. And then they were like, take this pill. But anyway, so back to the HRT. So I took it and I felt insane. I was like cutting down trees with chainsaws and
What do you
like,
mean
I
felt
mean,
insane? What do you mean by that? You've said that a few times. What do you mean by
the
insane?
HRT made me feel crazy. First of all,
And what does that mean for you?
it's,
Crazy.
um, oh, man, I don't know. I was like angry, quick triggered, like a weird kind of energy. But honestly, the thing that made me the most upset is I would say like on day 10 of trying it, I was like, this is a shut up drug. And I was like, I felt like I was going to get to the point where it was going to give me a lot of energy, like from the testosterone. I could identify the testosterone in my body, that it was like giving me this like edge. Like I felt like I could run a marathon or like, but fake. Like it wasn't like my natural vibe. It was like I was taking a drug, and I felt like if I kept taking it, it was gonna it I eventually that was gonna be my new norm, and I was going to be able to like accomplish, so to speak, more things and cover up the actual real reason that maybe I was not accomplishing what I needed to accomplish or something. Like it felt like a shut up drug. I felt like I was entering the age of the Stepford wives of like, take this drug and be happy. It's going to give you a sex drive. It's going to make you want to clean the house harder. It's going to make you want to get up and do your freaking, I don't know, your Pilates class, or like I felt like it was so fake. And and I remember calling my sister because she and I are the kind of people that we like finish all each other's sentences, and we never have to like fully. And I called her and I was like, I don't know about this. I don't, and my husband was a little nervous of me just jumping off of it because um, I was still on the thyroid medication, and he's like, "Can you just go on and off this shit?" And I was like, "I don't know." And so I was like making myself doubt, and I called my sister, and she was like, "Stop saying you don't know, Robin. You've been working on this to say you do know, and you know. Stop it. Just stop it." And I was like, "Oh, thank you so much." And I just felt like my vagina go, "Thank you so much." And so I stopped it cold turkey. Um, and I didn't tell my doctor. And then it opened such a door in me. HRT, like, you know how people are like, "Oh my God, HRT saved my life." HRT saved my life. It was so bad, and it gave me so much courage in myself to say, fuck that, that I slammed the door on it. And I was like, wait a minute, isn't thyroid medication just hormone replacement? And I'm like, and they've been telling me this for 20 years that it's safe. Like, what am I covering up? Like, what am I doing to myself? And so I went back to that doctor and I said, thank you very much. That does not interest me at all. He's like, well, you didn't stay on it long enough. And I was like, I don't care. I was like, I have no interest in doing this. And so I then turned to him and said, I want to get off my thyroid medication. And he's like, I'm proud of you. I was like, good. And so he's like, I would suggest, because you've been on it for so long, that you wean for 3 months, do a half and then a half dose of that and then a half, because I was on a full dose. And so I said, okay. And so I weaned for 3 months, went back to him, and also during these 20 years I was getting blood work every 6 months. They were taking my blood and telling me everything that was wrong with me every 6 months. And so when I went back for that second time, he took my blood, and I looked at him and I was like, I'm going to be honest, I don't really care what the numbers say, because I feel incredible and I'm already on a half dose. And he's like, all right. And he took the numbers, and I am so educated now with all the numbers and stuff like that, that when I read my own scans afterwards, and I was like, well, I see that I'm healing. They're not great, but for somebody who's told that, I was going to die if I got off this medication, I have energy. I've got my hair, like I'm not gaining crazy weight. Like I was like, fuck it. And so I just fully got off, and it's been a year, and I haven't gone back to him. I haven't got any blood work. I haven't, and I said to my husband, I was like, listen, like if you notice like really bad signs, like blind spots, like I have a 10-year-old daughter. I don't want to just be stupid and be like, I don't believe, I can survive this. But I, and some days I have lower days where I'm lower energy and I lie down, you know? I I take a fucking break. And I'm like, it's so interesting how like the epidemic of thyroid is for women, and we're so disconnected with our bodies and our voices and our weight and I was one of those lucky Hashimoto's humans that never gained a lot of weight. I never gained weight. I've always been kind of the same weight, but um, I am really fucking healthy. And I just turned around and said no, and that's not for everybody. But honestly, taking that little like moment with HRT, it gave me enough confidence in myself to say, fuck that. Like, and now I don't, like if I broke my leg, I would definitely go to a doctor. I'm not going to try to reset my leg with a doctor, like my leg, or without a doctor. But for other things that are deeper, I really believe it's in our power, like 100%.
Totally agree. And that's such an amazing story. And I love that actually, when you're saying the HRT piece was the catalyst to change your life by going on it, experiencing it, realizing how wrong and out of alignment it was, and then turfing it. That's incredible. And so allopathic denying, right, in the sense that, your their main one of their main narratives is that the hormone piece is there's no other option but to buy your hormones from the hormone store. Your body, the thing that makes them all the time, simply cannot make them in these cases, and you must buy them, right? And when we look at other systems of medicine, like let's say Ayurveda or Taoism, Chinese medicine, they don't even look at the orientation of hormones at all. That's not even in the conversation, right? They have other ways of measuring health and wellness, but hormones isn't one of them. And the idea of and when they do use herbs, it's to treat an acute condition or to soothe a chronic condition, but not to be on them for the rest of your life, right? That's a distinctly Western medicine protocol that you must take these forever and ever. Amen. Right? There is no way you could ever just rebalance and heal your system. That's just not possible. Right? Only in the areas that you actually referenced, right? Like let's say a broken bone or stitching a cut back together. I mean, that's a skill set I've taken advantage of, right? And I'm like, been pretty happy with the results. Like, you're a good stitcher. Yeah. Thanks for the stitching, But anything else, no, I wouldn't even dream. And then even broken, like I cracked a rib a few months ago and I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't get an X. I mean, I know I cracked it, right? And it's like, okay, what are you going to do? You're going to give me radiation. It can't, exactly. Most broken, unless it's a bone that's out of position, yes, they can reset that. And I would go for that. But in this case, it was like, well, I'm not going to go dose up on radiation for you to tell me I have a crack, which I already know. And there's nothing you can do for it, right? Now it's up to me. It's up to me to do the healing.
Which is so hard for people to take on. It's hard.
It
self-accountability
is right.
is...
Well, that's the crux of all of this, isn't it? It's that you either, and that's where so much of the resistance comes in. And a few months ago, I'd put up a post on my Instagram on why I don't take HRT, and the underfucked orcs just came a running, right? And they were so angry. And it's like, I didn't come over to you and say, hey, you're dumb because you take HRT. I'm just saying I don't take it, and I don't need to take it, but that was so offensive and so triggering and so upsetting. They had to, it's like, come over to my house and bang on the door and yell at me and tell me that how wrong I was. And it's like, wow, you have a lot invested in this narrative, and anything that threatens to break apart this narrative, you're fucking clinging to dear life and ready to kill, right? You're ready to kill to defend your position and not do this deeper inner work, right? And so, I mean, I just honestly laugh when that, I mean, it's a great opportunity for content making, just screenshot these fucking morons and like put them up just as the perfect example of all these things, right?
It's just so sad. It's so sad. It really is so sad. And we've been given such a fake story. And I'm starting to really appreciate all the just like HRT, for example, like it's come in and it's landed on us so heavily on women of this like savior. And I'm like, things like that are starting to peel back. They're so in our face that they're starting to make us question what's real. And that's the most important, is that we all just start questioning what's real. Like if you're having cervical orgasms, you can tell when somebody's being authentic. Like, you can. If you're having cervical orgasms, or you're like deeply in your body, you can tell what's real and not. And it feels and what I just love about the work that you're doing, and I praise Bruce Lipton because he led me to you. I loved him so much, and his voice and his authenticity, and he's so excited. He's like the mad scientist that gets so excited about his like, and so I listened to that first podcast and I was like, who the hell is this chick? Thank God somebody's finally talking about this. Like, I do not want to be a Buddhist and pretend that like my genitals are not here, you know? Like, I want to be spiritual with my vagina. And yeah, like, I mean, there are just those places that bring up so much defense, you know, and the orcs, as you call them, how they get so upset. And it's because they're sad inside because they need something external to cover up the fact that they're not feeling deeply whole. But it is, I mean, if you want to do the work, it's hard. Clearing the glass is fucking hard. The way that you teach it, it's hard. But man, the rewards afterwards on the other side are so good. They're so good and so worth it for people.
The
If they
analogy that I
just,
use a lot is around the idea of getting fit, right? And to be the lifestyle change that requires of self-discipline, the way you eat, the way you move, the exercise, your own self-image, right? Because when people do destructive things, it's because of a level of self-loathing, right? If you really love yourself, you don't overeat, you don't let your body get trashed. But it's a huge journey, and it's the hard part is developing that self-discipline, but then that becomes a way of life, right? Where now you exist on this higher level where it's just a natural part of your day that you eat well, you nourish yourself, you engage in some kind of challenging movement. That's just who you are now, right? And there might be some initial self will to put those pieces into place when you're tempted to want to go off the wagon, you know, and indulge, but you can also just get right back on it and keep going. And so yeah, that inner sourcing versus outer sourcing. And I think the thing I find most disappointing in that whole movement, especially with so-called more natural practitioners, everyone from naturopaths to more integrated physicians, they're all on the hormone kick, right? It's very, very rare to find anybody right now who doesn't support the use of hormones and peptides. And I guess for me, the main message there is they have zero inner reliance. They have zero inner faith that their body is capable of reconfiguration, of healing. Look what you did. You did something that was completely defying medical logic as we know it, right? By regrowing your thyroid. And for most people, that would just be, I mean, they could probably hear you say it and still be skeptical, right? Like,
100%.
because it would
Yeah.
go so against all that they hold dear and their excuses for why they can't do such a thing. So I love all of this. And, you know, I think something else that you were talking about that really is a natural result of this, we've talked about the connection of the yoni and the cervix with spiritual realms, but you said that this has really catapulted you deeper into your own faith and spirituality, right? So tell us more about that, because for so many people, sex and spirituality would be opposite sides of a spectrum, and it's only in these more ancient cultures and religions like in Tantra and Taoism, where they're actually united, we consider these things to be very close. And that was always my intuitive experience as I came into my sexuality, was that sex and spirit, this interdimensional portal, they were all connected, right? I mean, there was no evidence for that in my outer life in terms of, you know, the church, which if you grow up in a Western culture, that's your main experience of spirituality, unless you have a family who's had some kind of Eastern exposure, right? But for most people, in growing up in the West, it's the Christian church. And the place where their only connection to sex outwardly is basically fucking children, right? It's, you know, you're not allowed to fuck women, but you can fuck kids. Apparently that's okay, right? And so there's
Yeah.
a lot of
So fucked up.
confusing ideology there about what's really okay and like what is the truth about these things. So anyway, tell me how that's impacted your spiritual life.
When you start to have conversations with your vagina, you're basically having conversations with the unseen realm. And it opened the door to me of like, oh, wait a minute. this has been silenced through women for a very long time, and it's intentional. And our ability to go into the dark and into the womb and into those unseen realms and follow our intuition and surrender to saying, yes, I know what is right and I know what is wrong. I know HRT is not okay and no doctor can tell me. I mean, I'm totally into herbs. I love tinctures. I love crystals, all of it. I don't look these up in a book. I will go, I mean, I have tons of herbs in my pantry and it's like, oh, today I need lemon balm because my inner voice told me, and that inner voice is coming from my vagina and my pussy church. And then to like share that unseen realm with your partner in union. And I mean, I can take myself there, but there's nothing compared like to having that with another human being, to surrender into the knowledge and to call forth the masculine with your feminine is a power that is above and beyond anything. It is church. Like like when you see those, whatever the religion is where they speak in tongues and they like go into their crazies, like you should be having sex doing that. Like it's not, I mean, it's a trance. Like the things that I can see or witness or change or I feel like I feel like having sex is not just for me anymore or my partner. I feel like it's doing something to the world. I feel like we're opening portals and allowing divine feminine and divine masculine come dance in our bodies. They give us amazing sensations, but it's allowing that portal to come down to earth. And I know that sounds a little woo woo for maybe a few people listening to this, but it gives so much more meaning to what we're doing. It's not just an orgasm. It's not just being like, wow, I made a lot of money because I had a cervical orgasm or I healed a thyroid. And I did do that. And I do source a lot of abundance through my pussy. And oh God, it's just so good. It's so good. It's a prayer. It's like I find my deepest prayers in those moments. And it doesn't have to be words. It doesn't have to be, praying for something. It's just you are a part of that like magnetic and electric spark that happens. And it's powerful. So yeah, that's my church.
So beautifully said. And I would say that's the secret that an effort is being made to obscure. And that's why there's so much emphasis on the cheapening of sex, right? So that people get distracted and they think that's what it is. And so it's not really a worthwhile pursuit. Whereas the way you've described it and how you've experienced it, and our whole focus in Anami Land is to show people the way to get there, it is everything, right? It actually grounds you further into your body, into your spiritual self by connecting to this energy and holding it reverent. And I agree with you that there's a level you can access within yourself solo, and I think it's important to keep that channel open. But when you meet up and connect with a willing partner, a conscious partner who's also able to and willing to go deep with you, that's where the quantum growth and healing and bliss and self-realization all happen in that space.
Yeah, it's a gift for sure. We're really lucky to have like this human journey for that reason. And again, to go back to the solo, I feel like that's what's so important with your work. I feel like people need to do it solo. There's so much, there's so much that's buried in our, like, I don't think that I could have just healed everything with doing it with somebody else. There's a lot of quiet work that needs to be done with your own self, and beyond the orgasms. It's the clearing the glass with your own self so that you can be able to um, hold yourself accountable and release shame. And shame, like, it's my trigger word with children now, like especially having a daughter. And if she ever says, like, I'm embarrassed or ashamed, my ears immediately peak up. And I'm like, okay, this is where we need to speak, because it's so young. And, when you're talking about like the way that it's like intentionally blocking us and making us think that sex is dirty. I mean, that's what porn is used for. And it's like directed towards men, and so then they're embarrassed, and it's usually pretty aggressive. And so then their beautiful, like, fierce storm of like masculine power and aggression, which is gorgeous in when it's divine, has been shamed and transmuted. And now you have all these men that are like embarrassed to be men because they just are watching porn, and they think that I mean, it's so sad to me. And I really like, and I understand, and I think that this generation of men, you know they have a lot of guilt and shame put on them from what their gender has done in the past. And so it's kind of up to, like, I think men need to initiate, but I think it's up to us to really heal them deeply, like with our connection to the unseen realm. I think that our ability to like be open and surrendering and give them a place to rise as a man, but a man that's a safe man. Obviously you don't want to be with a man who's taking advantage of that. But if you're in touch with your cervix, you'll know immediately if that man is right or not.
That's such a good
Fake,
point.
not
That's
fake.
such a good point. And, because there's this whole conversation out there in the dating world of people being confused and led astray, and, oh, that person presented themselves this way, and it's not my fault. I got, swindled. And it's like, how do you not know? And I guess I kind of take it. I take it for granted, but because I've been operating from the cervix for such a long time, I have such a good male radar generally that it's like, how do you not know that? Right? And I guess, okay, if they are operating only from the clitoral realm of existence, this very superficial place, then yeah, they wouldn't know. They would just be superficial to superficial relating. But if they really have that cervical heart spiritual connection activated within them, then it becomes your intuition. We talk about these intuitive places, right? Like the spiritual intuition, the heart intuition, and then we would add to that conversation the yoni intuition. And if all those are synced up and they're operating in alignment together, you have quite impeccable intuition and radar for things. And so it's kind of hard to go wrong. I mean, I think we all have our own blockages that might present obstacles that challenge us, right? And we might get diverted on occasion because of that. We're all human. We may not operate with complete impeccability all the time, but I think you get the message. The message will still pierce through your trauma or blocks or whatever, right? Your walls. And then it's up to us to be courageous enough to act and engage or leave or whatever. But yeah, it's such a big part of the narrative out there. Like, oh, they were a narcissist and they were so good at hiding it. And it's like, oh, your radar is really off. And it's not just because you were abused, it's because you're not in touch with your cervix. You're not in touch with your sensuality on a much deeper level than most people even think is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those people that are on that journey, because I definitely had those few relationships where I got myself into situations, and for years, I mean, like, just, it's funny, my first boyfriend I call Beetlejuice. I call him his name is Beetlejuice because I don't want to actually say his name because I'm afraid he'll like pop up somewhere. But I look back and I have gratitude for all of those. I have gratitude for my Lyme's disease. I have gratitude for all those years of Hashimoto's. Like, I have gratitude for, the abortion that I had, that was one of the most traumatic grief sessions of my entire life. If we can get to the other side of having gratitude for all of those, and all of those bad relationships, if they led you to the point where anybody that has showed up at Kim and Ami's doorstep to learn because they had some bad shit go on, that bad shit was great. And it actually led them right there. And that is half or three quarters of the healing process, is being like, okay, cool. I had that for a reason. Now, why am I here? Now, what am I going to do with that? Probably need to shake the shit out, but at least, it gave you the stepping grounds to be, and even the people that even if I was 80 and I was just coming here now, I'd be bummed that I didn't have sex like incredibly all those other years, because it's nice to have a young vital body to have sex with. But um just yeah, the whole youth thing is overrated. No matter when it happens, it's just so perfect. I mean, I never go back and say, wow, I wish I was younger. I wish I was younger knowing the stuff that I know now, but I didn't. And so, like, right now, I'm looking at 50, and my spirituality, I live through my vagina and my spirituality and that voice, and I create art through it.
Is there anything else that you want to add that we haven't covered?
I would just say to anybody that's listening that just to be patient with yourself, look for those conversations that bring up energy. If you feel shame, if you feel like something's off, just be patient and sit with it and hold yourself accountable. Don't blame anybody, because we really, if you, and don't blame yourself, because that's just shame and you're just sitting in it, just being like, what do I do now? What do I do with this? What kind of life do I want to live? And know that you are 100% able to grow from that place and just have a more and more divine existence. It's fun. It's like really fun to like uncover it slowly, and just being, our lives are really truly just little pieces of art, each of us. And what colors do you want to play with? What do you want it to look like? It's not that complicated once you start just following what you want to surrender to.
I love that a big part of your story is these conditions that you had, and then you use those as stepping stones, right? Because for many people, then this idea of that victim narrative, or, well, this is my lot in life and I guess there's no way out, accepting defeat, where you've used them as pivots, things that people have literally told you there's no other way to do this than to be on drugs forever, right? So I love that those instead became versions of wake up calls for you, or attention getting, which is what I think their purpose is, right? When we have really loud signals from the body, that's what we're meant to do, is pay attention and discover, okay, what's the meaning, the message underneath this, and how can I become cause rather than effect? How can I take control of this situation and recreate it?
Thank you for acknowledging that.
Well, thank you for being here and sharing all of this. Very inspiring, Robin.
Mm. Thanks, Kim. Thanks for all the work and being a good leader.
The Well Fucked Woman Salon is coming soon. In it, we dive deep into all things vaginal orgasms, especially the queen of them all, the cervix. The Anami guarantee is that all women can have all orgasms, no matter what age or stage you are at, and amazingly, even if you no longer have a cervix, it is still possible for you. I will walk you through exactly how in the Well Fucked Woman Salon. To get on the waitlist and be notified of when the salon opens and to receive a free series on vaginal orgasms in the meantime, go to kimanami.com/wet. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and send somebody else the gift of a multi-orgasmic and transformational love life by sharing this episode with them. If you'd like to go deeper into all things orgasms, sign up for my free Orgasmopedia series where you'll learn about 9 different types of orgasms everyone can have. Go to kimanami.com and you'll see the sign up there. Come one, come all.